Hey everybody, Eric Anthony here again with another vendor update. Today we have one of my favorite kind of updates, and in this one we get to talk to an MSP. It's really great when we get to talk to partners about these vendors because it really gives you an idea of what that vendor is going to be like to work with as well as their technologies. So today I have with me Matt Blatz from PCS. He's the Director of Sales and Partnerships at PCS. But other than that, I'm going to let him tell you about himself because he can probably do a better job than I can.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a little rainy in Chicago today, but you know.
Well, that's good. Good to hear. We're actually getting a good glimpse of sun out here on outside of Philadelphia, so not a bad day. But
nice.
But thank you, and I appreciate you reaching out. So I am Matt Blatz, as Eric stated. I am the Director of Sales and Partnerships at PCS. We are a managed services and IT support provider. Been in the business close to 25 years, little over 250 employees, 5 locations, working with small, mid, and even some large-sized businesses of all shapes and sizes.
Nice. So obviously we're here to talk about ComTec and that partnership.
Right.
But before we start into the details of that, where does VoIP fit in to PCS's overall strategy with its clients?
That's a great question, actually. So originally, I've been with the company 8 years, and when I started, I had noticed that our clients had basically always reached out to myself or our technicians and said, "Hey, does PCS do phones? Does PCS do telecom? Does PCS do VoIP?" And the answer was always no. We would always say, "Hey, we are a managed service provider. We do IT. We stay in our lane. You're best off trying to find another telecom partner." So it was our thought that, like, hey, we should probably start to look into telecom partners and reach out because we're getting these opportunities all the time. And as the industry grew, we kind of felt that IT and telecom were really starting to intermingle, especially when VoIP came out, especially. So that is when it made a lot of sense for us to start, I would say, shopping for partnerships with telecom companies and VoIP providers to help us kind of elevate our services within our own client base.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it works for a lot of MSPs, right? They see the advantage and the intermingling, as you put it, of IT and telecom because telecom is just based on technology.
That's correct. Yep.
So in your process, obviously you found ComTec. How did you find them and what were some of the parameters that drove you to making the decision to partner with ComTec?
Okay. So I would say the origin story probably started between the two owners. The owner of PCS, his name is Anthony Mongeluzzo. Owner of ComTec, Mike Bertoli. They had met, I believe, through a board. We share a mutual nonprofit client that they were both on the board for, and they met at the board. They were very light friends, very light social. Never really talked about doing business together at that point in time. And then as these kind of questions came from our clients and these requests came out, Anthony approached me and said, "Hey, Matt, you know what? Why don't you start trying to connect with the folks over at ComTec? I know of Mike through this board. It might make sense for us to start looking at telecom companies, but let's start with those folks first because I know them and I have somewhat of a relationship with them." So that's kind of how the origin story started. After that point, I met Brian Flame. Brian Flame, I believe at that point in time, was just hired. He had some really big ideas for me that really sparked a lot of light bulbs in my mind regarding a mutual partnership. So the conversation started with Brian and I, and then it just kind of evolved into the rest of the team at ComTec to where I was meeting all the folks and we started to bring them some small opportunities, from some of our clients. One of the biggest things that stood out for me, given the fact that I was being approached by dozens of telecom partners, is the fact that ComTec had not only did they only offer a small amount of products, right? Products that our clients I felt could understand, but they also had their own internal help desk for their services. For the other telecom companies that I have met over time, a lot of them are just kind of like, hey, we'll set you up. They're the telecom broker. They're going to drop a box to your office with a phone in it, and then it's like bye-bye, right? With ComTec, They really build relationships with their clients. They really have that internal support. So if you're having an issue with the VoIP, if you're having an issue with the phone system, you're calling them. You're actually going to get a ComTec technician. They're not going to put you into some third world country, to try to get support that you can barely understand and to start troubleshooting on your own, right? Imagine how frustrating that can be for a user if they're the ones that are actually troubleshooting their own VoIP issues. So one of the things that really stood out for me with ComTec was the fact that they had their own internal help desk and their own internal support that was not outsourced.
And that is excuse me, I'll have to edit that part out. And that really is an important part of it, right? Is the service, because otherwise you would have had to train up PCS help desk technicians in order to be able to provide that support to your clients.
That's correct. Yeah, exactly. It's actually that point. We do play middleman for all of our clients, right? So we are a managed service provider. So we say we're the one throat to choke, or how I like to say is the one back to pat, so to speak, where we are communicating with their internet service providers, with their telecom providers, with their software providers, their printer copier providers. So it makes it much even easier on my team to say, hey, there's an issue going on with this VoIP system. I'm just going to call over to ComTec and work with one of their guys. We're going to get this resolved very quickly because I know I'm working directly with a ComTec service person.
Yeah, and one of the differences between IT and telecom is telecom has a lot of legacy devices that they have to deal with.
Oh yeah,
and that's experience that you only get by doing, and so that's something ComTec's been doing for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always been nice too because they have done a great job with even educating me and some of our sales staff and some of our account managers. To whereas once we hear certain things from our client base, like let's say one of our clients mentions that they're still on a PBX system. Well, we know that as agent, we know we know the costs they're paying for that, the exuberant amount of costs they're probably paying to support a PBX system. And they've educated myself and our team to mention to our clients, like, hey, just have an understanding. We're not the experts here, but you're probably spending a lot of money on this. You really need to talk to our partner over here at ComTec. I think there would be, a real cost benefit for a 30-minute conversation with them, for sure.
Awesome. So I know I asked you kind of pre-call, if you have a client success story that you can share, because that's kind of where, the real proof is, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So if you can, kind of relate a quick client success story that PCS has had with ComTec.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a very large manufacturing client of PCS that we have been engaged with for quite some time, providing their support. In this scenario, we were supporting a couple of their local offices, although they are a national manufacturer. So we were supporting their local manufacturer kind of by our office, but huge company. Within conversations dealing with their IT director, me and the account manager started to get some word regarding their phone system, and we caught word that they were on a very old system, PBX, and they were thinking about a change. Their contracts were coming up with the current provider. Everything was kind of aligning up. So we made an introduction to this client. The ComTec team, development team, jumped on this immediately. We had a great meeting with them, and immediately with I believe it was Phelan who was on that call. Immediately dived right into their to their pain points regarding what their issues were with their current phone system and what they were trying to do. After about a dozen questions, the client was extremely impressed to the point where they even gave me a follow-up email stating how impressed they were with the team over at ComTec, kind of Phelan leading that pack, and how knowledgeable they were, how they really educated the IT team at this client, at this manufacturer, and they immediately wanted to see a solution from ComTec. Probably within week, 2 week tops, they had a full solution ready to test and ready to sample for them. And I would say probably about maybe about 3 to 4 weeks later, I don't think the client of ours even reached out to anybody else. They were so impressed with the knowledge and the solution design that they came up with that they immediately signed on the dotted line for ComTec and implemented that solution. That solution has been live for, I believe, over a year at this point, and they have said nothing but great things about ComTec and the support they've been getting, especially even during the project. They had even said during the project, like anything, there's always a couple little hiccups, but they were right on top of it. They were responsive, and they were there to be there for them during the whole onboarding, which impressed PCS and really impressed the client. And at the end of the day, it makes us look really, really good, because the last thing that we want to do is give a referral to a partner and have it go bad, right? Because essentially, we're still going to get the finger pointed back at us. So that was a great success story for sure that I think really helped out the client and helped out our reputation here at PCS.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like ComTec really focuses on the service and the quality of what they're doing rather than just kind of cranking out, solutions. They're taking the time, they're walking the customer through and actually building the solution and then supporting the solution all the way through, which also makes them a great partner for PCS, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Like we hear nightmare stories because obviously we have clients that are using other telecom partners. We haven't been able to get them to jump over the fence just yet. But we hear these nightmare stories from, I don't want to name names or anything, but where these companies will literally just drop boxes and run, and then you're calling back the salesperson or whoever you did the deal with, and they're not answering, they're not responsive. They don't even know how the system works, and then you're calling the 1-800 number that's, on the back of the box, and hopefully you're spending, less than an hour to troubleshoot your issue. So really, with ComTec, having that personal service, that real hand-holding is goes a long way in my opinion, and it's also it's exactly how PCS works with their clients as well, right? So we really take pride in the relationship that we have built with the client, because at the end of the day, we are a customer service company, right? But we need to be there for our clients, for the ups and for the downs, and it's important to have that relationship and have that hand-holding and have that service and flexibility. Where I think in the world we live in these days and how fast it's growing, you're losing that, right? You're losing that relationship, that touch with your vendors these days in businesses, and it's unfortunate. So I think companies like ComTec and PCS will still continue to do well and do great in this world because we're still continuing to do that hand holding and build that relationship and have an understanding that they're just not a decimal point on an Excel sheet. They are human beings. These are businesses that we're working with day to day. We are helping them operate. We are helping them grow. We are helping them generate revenue. And that's our thought at PCS, and I know that's the thoughts at ComTec for sure.
That's awesome. And I mean, people who watch this channel, people who know me, know that I'm very big on the relationships between MSPs and vendors. That's why we do a lot of what we do in All Things MSP to bring MSPs and vendors together. And I don't just mean sponsors and MSPs. Yeah. I mean MSPs and all types of vendors, because we are an agnostic community, and we do like to, make sure that we highlight companies like ComTec who are, driving that type of relationship. And so, Matt, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about ComTec today. If anybody wants to find out more about ComTec, they can go to atmsp.link/ComTec. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Eric. Take care now.